Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB game scheduled for Sunday, April 22nd, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, you can always find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Sunday in Major League Baseball. First up, it's the Philadelphia Phillies hosting the Colorado Rockies. We're going to see Jose Urena and Zach Wheeler on the mound in this one. I know the Rockies have been competitive in this series to start, but this is just too much of a pitching mismatch for me. I got to take the Phillies and lay the 1.5 runs. Jose Urena has given up at least 2 home runs in each of his last 3 starts. He's got an ERA above 9.8 to start the season. And, Zach Wheeler has not been the same Zach Wheeler we're used to seeing. Has that ERA above 4.5, but at least he's missing bats, 23 strikeouts in 20 2/3 innings. He's only given up 1 home run in those innings as well. So I do think we're going to see a much sharper Wheeler as the season continues. He's the much better option in a game like this. So give me the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm going to lay the 1.5 runs. Next up, it's the Houston Astros taking on the Atlanta Braves. We're going to see Christian Javier and Max Fried on the bump in this one. 2 strong starting pitchers on paper, and that's why we see a low total for this game, but I actually think there's some value on the over in a game like this. Christian Javier has been a starting pitcher that usually when he gets burnt, it's via the long ball. And we've seen this season, his last 2 starts giving up 3 home runs combined in those 11 innings against the Pirates and the Blue Jays. Now you're facing a Braves team that you had success against last year, but a Braves team that's top 10 in baseball in both team OPS and isolated power against those right-handed pitchers. They're right now second best in baseball in exit velocity. Their hard hit percentage is strong. Their barrel percentage is strong. So I think the Braves could hit a few long balls in this game against Javier. On the other side, Max Fried, a left-handed pitcher. The Astros have hit lefties very well, much better than right-handed pitching this season. We saw in the late innings of the first game, Yordan Alvarez, the 2-run shot in the 9th inning against the lefty A.J. Minter. So I do think that Max Fried could struggle in a game like this. I think, because of these 2 strong starting pitchers, they get some value on the over. So give me the over 8 runs in Astros Braves. Next up, it's the Baltimore Orioles hosting the Detroit Tigers. We're going to see Grayson Rodriguez and Matthew Boyd on the mound in this one. You look at Grayson Rodriguez's ERA in his first few starts, you see it at 6.91. You say, this guy's probably just not ready for MLB action. But I got to say, I've watched a good amount of his starts so far, and I do think he's got a lot of potential. And I also think he's going to be able to put together a quality season in the major league level. I mean, last time against the Chicago White Sox, he went 5 innings, 4 earned runs, and 2 homers. Doesn't look good on paper, but all 4 of those earned runs and both of those home runs were in the first inning, basically the first few at-bats of that game. Grayson Rodriguez settled in really nicely after that first inning. He ended the line with 8 strikeouts. He gave the Orioles a chance to win, and in the end, the bats found him, and they won 8-4 in the end. So, Grayson Rodriguez now back-to-back starts where the Orioles have grabbed a W when he started on the mound, and I think he's the much better option in a game like this. I also think that the Orioles, pretty good matchup for him because they're facing a lefty. The Orioles have crushed lefties so far this season, so I like Grayson Rodriguez, and I like the Orioles in this game, so I'm going to take Baltimore on the money line. Next up, we see the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the New York Yankees. We're going to see Kevin Gausman and Clark Schmidt on the mound in this one. And I know Kevin Gausman's coming off that terrible start against the Houston Astros. 4 2/3 innings, 7 earned runs. Similar to Grayson Rodriguez, he gave up all those runs in the first inning and settled down nicely to give the Blue Jays at least a chance to come back. But, I still think Gausman's the better option in a game like this where, Clark Schmidt on the other side's got an 8.79 ERA. He's basically struggled in every single start he's had this year, giving up at least 3 earned runs, and it's not like he goes too deep into ball games. He's only pitched 3 1/3, 3 1/3, 4 innings, 3 2/3, giving up some home runs, at least 1 home run in 3 of his first 4 outings. The strikeout numbers have been there, but he's giving up a lot of sharp contact, and I can't trust him here against the solid Blue Jays lineup that we saw against Domingo Germán in the first game of the series, and really throughout the season they've hit right-handed pitching really well. So I'm going to take the Toronto Blue Jays. I think they're favorites for a reason. I'm going to take them on the money line. Next up, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Hunter Green and Vince Velasquez are your starters. And there's no doubting that Hunter Green is the much better option, long-term in terms of these starting pitchers. Hunter Green's got much better strikeout stuff, and I do think by the end of the year, he will have the better numbers. But I still think the Pittsburgh Pirates have the much better lineup. They're playing at home here. I think they have the much better bullpen as well. And, Vince Velasquez, as much as I don't really like to back him, he's actually been pretty decent in the last couple of starts. We saw him throw a quality start at Coors Field, not an easy thing to do. 6 innings, 3 earned runs, and 7 strikeouts in that game. The previous start at Busch Stadium against a very tough Cardinals lineup, he went 6 innings, no earned runs, and 6 strikeouts. So he's missing bats. He's limiting sharp contact pretty much, and Hunter Green on the other side. He's a strikeout pitcher. He's got 24 Ks in 17 innings. But this Pirates lineup at home against righties has been really strong. Their team OPS and isolated power numbers are solid, especially their isolated power numbers. We got a Hunter Green, a guy who's given up some home runs and bunches in his career at the major league level. So I could see the Pirates getting to him for a homer or two. And like I said, the Pirates have the much better bullpen. So I'm going to take that plus money here with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Next up, we see the Chicago White Sox taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. We're going to see Lucas Giolito going for Chicago. No official starter for Tampa Bay. They could be going with a bullpen game here. Now, Lucas Giolito going into 2023 was one of my, comeback of the year candidates, as I really expected him to have a bounce back season, and he struggled out of the gates. There's no doubt about that. But the last couple of outings, he's pitched really well. His last 2 games against the Twins and the Phillies, 12 innings combined, only 1 earned run, no home runs, and 14 strikeouts. So he's missing bats. He's limiting sharp contact in the last couple of games. But to me, this Rays team and this Rays lineup is just not a really good matchup for a pitcher like Lucas Giolito. This Rays team is obviously crushing righties to start 2023. We saw him get to the White Sox startering Michael Kopech and the bullpen in the first game of this series. And, Lucas Giolito, I think the Rays are going to be able to work some counts against him, get his pitch count up early, and I think that's going to hurt him in the end. So, as much as I think Giolito's going to go on to have a strong campaign, I just don't love this matchup for him. So I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm going to take them on the money line. Next up, it's the Miami Marlins taking on the Cleveland Guardians. We're going to see Peyton Battenfield for the home side and Jesus Luzardo for the Marlins on the other side. Jesus Luzardo, a left-handed pitcher. The Guardians last year, not really the best numbers against lefties. And, to start this year, they had improved those numbers a bit, but still right around, league average, maybe a little bit below league average in some of the important hitting metrics against lefties. And Luzardo's pitched really well this year. He's got a 2.74 ERA, 26 strikeouts in 23 innings. His last start wasn't his best against the Giants, but he was able to settle down and give the Marlins some much-needed innings. But I think this is a good spot for the Marlins, especially at the price we're getting, facing a young pitcher in Battenfield who's pitched well so far, but I do expect a little bit of regression in his game. He's only got 8 strikeouts in 10 2/3 innings. We saw him give up a home run in his last game. That was against a weak lineup in the Detroit Tigers, and the Miami Marlins not the strongest lineup themselves, but I do think they can put together some competitive at-bats and get to him in the end. So I'm going to take the Miami Marlins here on the money line. Next up, we see the Boston Red Sox taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. We're going to see Brian Bayo and Corbin Burnes on the mound in this one. Now, I am worried a little bit about Brian Bayo in the first few outings for him this season. I do think eventually he's going to be able to get to the form we saw him at the end of the regular season last year for Boston. But I think we saw last year he was a slow starter for the Red Sox. I could see it this year as well. We saw it in his first outing, 2 2/3 innings, 8 base hits, and 5 earned runs with a homer against the Los Angeles Angels at Fenway. And, he's got good strikeout stuff, and overall he's got pretty good ground ball stuff as well. But Corbin Burnes on the other side, he struggled at the beginning of the season. He's definitely in much better form now. His strikeout numbers are still, getting there, but I think eventually Corbin Burnes is going to be one of the better pitchers in the National League this season. And we're getting a pretty good price with him because of those early season struggles, because you see that ERA at 4.76, but I think he's a much better pitcher than that. So I'm going to take the Milwaukee Brewers. I'm going to take him on the money line. Next up, we see the Minnesota Twins taking on the Washington Nationals. We're going to see Patrick Corbin and Sonny Gray as the projected starters. There's no official lineup for this game, so we could see a pitching change. When I looked ahead at this series and I saw the pitching matchups on paper, I thought to myself that this would be the game that the Nationals had the best chance of competing in, maybe even winning. And you look at Patrick Corbin, like I've said, he struggled to start the year, but I do think he's improving his game. We saw in his last start against the Guardians, 6 innings, only 2 earned runs allowed, a couple of unearned runs allowed, but that's on the defense. And he had 4 strikeouts, no home runs, and no walks allowed. And he's facing a Twins lineup that has not been great against lefties, that's for sure. They're ranked 19th in team isolated power, so below league average. They are ranked 27th in team OPS against lefties. They have the 3rd highest strikeout rate against lefties as well. And the Washington Nationals, although their numbers, hitting-wise, are not great against righties overall, this is a team that limits strikeouts. And, Sonny Gray, he's kind of been a strikeout-dependent guy this year. He's got 26 strikeouts in 22 innings. He does give up some sharp contact from time to time, and I do think that the Nationals could get on the board early against Gray. And this one, he wasn't the sharpest in his last game against the Red Sox. Gave up a lot of base runners in 5 innings, 7 base hits, and 2 walks as well. So I'm going to take the 1.5 runs here for Washington. I think they compete in this game, maybe even earn the outright W. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Chicago Cubs. This has been a fun series to watch. We see Clayton Kershaw and Marcus Stroman on the mound in this one. Great pitching matchup. You got Clayton Kershaw, a legend of the game, on the mound, and you got Marcus Stroman, who is off to an amazing start this season. He's just been Mr. Consistent. Seems to go out there, give the Cubs 6 strong innings, strike out a good amount of batters, keep the ball on the ground, limit sharp contact. He's got a .75 ERA, 25 strikeouts in 24 innings, and a .92 whip. And it's tough to go against him, getting a really good price here with Chicago. When on the other side, Clayton Kershaw has no doubt about it, been pitching well this season, coming off an excellent start against the New York Mets. 7 innings, 9 strikeouts, only 3 base hits, no walks allowed, no earned runs allowed. But Chicago Cubs have really good numbers against lefties offensively this season. We saw them get to Urias earlier in a game this series, and overall they're number 3 in baseball on team OPS and number 6 in isolated power against southpaws. I think this is a really good price here with Chicago, the home team. It's proven they can compete this series. We saw them compete at Dodger Stadium. We saw them play well here at Wrigley Field against the Dodgers, and the Dodgers have been overvalued at times this year. So give me the Chicago Cubs. I'm going to take them on the money line. Next up, we see the Oakland Athletics taking on the Texas Rangers. We're going to see Kyle Muller and Jacob deGrom on the mound in this one. No official lineup for this game, so we could see a pitching change, by the way. But I do think this is a pitching mismatch. And although the Rangers, we took the team total over 5 runs on Friday, and we saw the Rangers score 4 runs in the first inning. Looked like we were, easy winner there, but they couldn't score a run the rest of the game. A little disappointing there, and they actually lost that game in the end, 5-4. I still think the Rangers are the better team in this one. Jacob deGrom, obviously the much better pitcher. Kyle Muller struggled this season, 7.23 ERA. His last start being his worst, honestly. 4 innings, 13 base hits, 6 earned runs, a home run, 2 walks, and a 10-1 loss for the A's. The A's have lost the last 3 games for Muller, losing all those games by 2+ runs. So I'm going to take the Texas Rangers here, lay the 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Jordan Lyles and Reed Detmers are your starters. I'm going to take the over in this game. The Kansas City Royals, although their offense has not been great this season in terms of the run-scoring department, they have been able to make a lot of sharp contact this year, and their numbers are much better against left-handed pitching, especially in the isolated power department. Reed Detmers has had mixed results to start the year, a 4.5 ERA so far this season. Last start wasn't bad, 6 1/3 innings, 7 strikeouts. He gave up a home run in that game, though, 6 base hits to go with it. And the Angels have lost the last 2 of his starts, so I do think the Royals could get to him for a few runs, and I think Jordan Lyles, not my favorite starting pitcher to back. He's got a 3.91 ERA for now. But I still think that as the season continues, we're going to see some regression in his game. We saw him give up 2 home runs in his last start to the Rangers. Saw him give up 2 home runs, a couple starts back to the Toronto Blue Jays. And the Royals have lost each of his first 4 starts this season. The bullpen for Kansas City can't be trusted, and neither really can the Angels bullpen. We've seen them blow a lot of games last year and even this season. So give me the over. I think the total's steep for a reason. Give me the over in Royals-Angels. Next up, we see the San Diego Padres taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. We're going to see Yu Darvish and Dre Jameson on the mound in this game. This is a tough one for me because I noticed, Yu Darvish pitched against the Diamondbacks in his first start of the season after he started late because of the injury, and he struggled in that game with his control. He had 4 walks allowed. I think he hit a couple of batters as well, but he only gave up 1 earned run in the end, and it seems like the Diamondbacks consistently get a lot of runners on base against Darvish, but he just manages to get out of a lot of jams against this team, and I think he does it against a lot of teams as well. So, that's just the type of pitcher Yu Darvish is, but he's been in really good form lately. His last start against the Brewers, tough lineup there, 7 innings, 12 strikeouts, only 1 earned run. So it's tough to go against Darvish here with, Jameson on the other side, not really a pitcher that's going to go too deep into this game, even though he's had success so far on the mound, a 2.25 ERA. He does have some control issues himself. We saw him give up 4 walks and a home run in his last start to the Cardinals. So, Jameson's not going to go too deep in this game. The Diamondbacks bullpen, not really the most trustworthy. I think San Diego's the play for me. So give me the Padres on the money line. Next up, it's the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Seattle Mariners. We're going to see Jack Flaherty and Chris Flexen on the mound in this one. I'm going to go with another team total over for the St. Louis Cardinals. We've done 2 of them this season, one against the Milwaukee Brewers and one against the Rockies at Coors Field, and we cashed both of those, so hopefully we can catch this one. But, the reason why I don't want to take St. Louis themselves on the money line or just take the full game over is I just don't know what Jack Flaherty we're going to see. He's been very inconsistent this year with his control and his strikeout stuff, so I'd rather just isolate this game to, I like this Cardinals matchup against Chris Flexen, who has struggled in back-to-back games and is not really a starting pitcher I looked back very often last year as well. He's a guy that doesn't really miss a lot of bats, and we saw him against the Chicago Cubs back on April 11th, give up 8 earned runs and 2 home runs. And you could say, oh, that was at Wrigley Field. The wind was blowing out, I think 20 plus miles per hour. Give him a little bit of a break here. But then in his next start against the Milwaukee Brewers, 4 earned runs and 6 hits and 6 innings of work. So I do think that the Cardinals lineup, they're strong against right-handed pitching. They make sharp contact. They work at bats. They don't really strike out much. Just not a really good matchup at all for a guy like Chris Flexen. So I think the Cardinals can put up 4 or 5 runs on Flexen alone. And if they're not over the team total by then, I think they're going to be able to add a few runs in the bullpen. So give me the team total over 4.5 runs for St. Louis. And the final game for Sunday's card in Major League Baseball, it's the New York Mets and the San Francisco Giants. We're going to see Tyler McGill going for New York, no official starter for San Francisco. And by the way, this is your Sunday Night Baseball contest on ESPN. Now, these San Francisco Giants have burnt me a lot this season. I know they've burned a lot of you as well, whether it be their lack of offense in certain spots or their blown leads by the bullpen in other games. But I still think this is a decent matchup for San Francisco. I mean, this is a team that definitely cannot hit lefties very well, but can hit righties pretty well, and we've seen that at the beginning of the season where their team OPS and isolated power numbers are solid. You know, you look at the isolated power, ranked 3rd in baseball. Their team OPS is also ranked 3rd in baseball, just behind the Rays and the Dodgers. So, you know, their strikeout rate's lower against righties. Their walk rate is at 10.6%, which is 7th in the league. Tyler McGill's had some issues giving up sharp contact. We've seen him give up some home runs as of late. And I do think San Francisco could get on the board early against him. We saw him give up 3 home runs, McGill, in his last 10 innings of work. His walks have also gone up a little bit, which is a bit concerning. So, you know, those free passes and those long balls, not what you want to see from a starter. And you add to the fact that he's only, 17 strikeouts in 21 innings, so under a strikeout per inning. That's just a little bit scary. I think we're going to see some regression in McGill's game, currently at a 3.00 ERA. I don't think he's going to be able to hold those numbers unless he's missing more bats and limiting those free passes going forward. So right now, I like San Francisco in the first 5 innings. There's no way I can trust this Giants bullpen, but I'm going to take San Francisco on the money line in the first 5. And that's it. Those are the games for Sunday in Major League Baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bet, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.